I'm so nervous, and now I get why these things can be so stressful.
Oh, but it's gonna be a great show. It's gonna be great. You're bringing so much chaotic energy into this. It's gonna be a hit.
Thank you. Same to you, man. This should be absolutely bonkers.
I'm so scared. I have skits that I do sometimes on my channel called Breaking News, and most of
Breaking News?
Yeah, most of them revolve around Sonic. Like, quite literally, like, the first breaking news I did was, like, Dr. Robotnik getting brutally murdered by Topher Grace, and it was its own fucking thing, and I have a story literally about Sega Stocks.
Hold on, what?
Yeah, no, he was brutally murdered by Hollywood sweetheart Topher Grace, and because of that, Sega stocks went up. Then they later found out that Dr. Robotnik completely faked the whole thing because he wanted to go on vacation in Hawaii. And Topher Grace, nobody can find him for some reason, but Sega stocks just kept going up from there. So I'm excited for this.
Oh boy.
Purely just because I want to say that Sega stocks are gonna go down after this terrible news.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I hope they really do. Just so that it can come back to me.
Stock market crash, like, of the century. Like, you thought, like, the fucking...
Truly.
I can't. Oh my god. All right, this is good.
Alrighty. Well, it is 8. Are we ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready.
Wonderful.
Oh, we're live anyway. So.
Yep. All right. Welcome, everybody. Oh, hey. I need to restart you. Ha ha ha. There's a lot going on here.
Very nice. Oh my god, what is going on?
It doesn't matter. We're figuring it out, and it's going to be great.
That's fair.
Okay, so...
I have to take in what I'm looking at.
Okay, so... I guess just to... set the scene, perhaps? This was a PowerPoint that I made way back at, like, the heat of, mandatory quarantine. So, this is around the time where I had genuinely nothing to do. I had learned embroidery, I had played Animal Crossing, and had nothing else to snack on. And so me and my friends decided to do a PowerPoint night, and we could do it on whatever we wanted and just present it as though, like, everyone else was the class. And, like, I don't know where this idea came from, but it's what I worked on. And so shout out to my sister who helped me do some of what ends up being around, like, 7 to 8 figure math. And, like, some of the research that went into this. So...
Okay, so we gotta, before we get any further into this, we just gotta appreciate the hard work you've put into this first script. Well, I love everything about what's going on here. We've got the green hill in the back for your PowerPoint. It's so chaotic, but so professional at the same time. Like, I am so excited to get into this.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, so, like the disclaimer says, I have absolutely no experience with, the American legal system. Or really politics in general, so I am not claiming to be an expert in, the judiciary goings-on. I just did as much research as would allow me in, like, 2 or 3 days of just this. Some of which were websites that, like, I don't even remember where I went anymore, but you have to do some crazy research for aircrafts, of all things. I had to do some digging. But I think I've come up with at least a decently cohesive idea of where we're standing at in terms of debt for Sonic and Friends, etc. And see kind of who owes the most. And, yeah, so, Banjo, as our other resident, or probably above me, Sonic expert, I am counting on you to both, debate some of these points, as well as bring up any inconsistencies, or just questions you may have, with our friends here. So,
I'm
yeah.
gonna go ahead and say your faith is misplaced.
No.
Whole thing.
Absolutely not. No, I have seen you go absolutely hog wild on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I know for a fact that you've got some knowledge rattling around in that brain of yours. So, we're just gonna go.
All right, let's go. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
and also, for anyone watching, first of all, if you are watching, that's insane. Why? But two, please feel free to supplement other questions you might have in chat, because we do have chat going, and I just love to argue about really stupid things and get to seemingly worthwhile points somewhere along the way. So, yeah, please feel free to put along some of your own, Sonic knowledge here. But
point out real quick before we get into all of that, just so quick shout out to everyone in the chat. If you don't know, Crash Candy is a professional cosplayer. I would say professional cosplayer with the quality you pump out.
Thank you.
She is also one of our influencers that has done a lot for Misty Mountain. So it's exciting to have her do this on stream tonight. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Banjo.
Yeah!
Sometime, but most of the time, if you are associated with Misty Mountain in any way, going to shows, you'll see me there as one of the road crew. But we got Sonic to talk about.
He's the little messenger boy.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, which Sonic the Hedgehog character owes the most in fines from U.S. federal crimes? I will go ahead and little disclaimer as well to tack on top of it. I did specify U.S. federal crimes because a lot of these are going to get into some intergalactic warfare and also Mobian law, which I'm not even going to begin to say that I know anything about it or have tried to dissect it. It's a lot. I don't live on that planet, so I'm not going to speak for their judiciary system, but this is ours. However, if you do have any questions concerning Mobius or any of the other planets affected by Sonic and Friends, you may still ask questions about it. I just probably am not going to know what the hell to tell you. But yeah, so we have to start at the beginning, of course. Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog, also known as Maurice Wentworth. So he first made his appearance in Sega in 1991. So originally, back when we were kind of in that video game boom of the early 90s, Mario was really taking off, and Sega quickly discovered that having a recognizable, like, colorful mascot would do really well for their company because they needed something not only to put them on the map, but to have, like, something to refer to. Kind of like Banjo here. Be the audience surrogate. Experience a game in a world with you inside it. So they were trying to consider what is something that could contrast Red and this, like, plucky hero type, just kind of like Mary Sue guy. And they were like, let's go with kind of our audience that we're trying to go for with these games and make it, well, blue. So a color that could not be confused at all, and something that was really easy to animate and draw out on, like, just those short pixel graphics they had going on. But something kind of sassy and edgy, something with a little bit more character. Oh. Lots of hard plosives. I'm sorry. I get really excited about these things. I get really, really excited. But anyway, Sonic was born. And he was this sassy character with... Yeah, Ogilvy Maurice is... it's really something. However, Maurice is for his father, who was named Maurice. So... yeah. And originally, Sonic was designed to be a rabbit, but that kind of got scrapped because, again, they wanted to focus more on, like, something with color, and bunnies just seemed, like, too cute and kind of played out, and they couldn't make, like, this masculine like sassy hero that they wanted out of a rabbit. So we have Sonic the Blue Hedgehog. And yeah, that's kind of our beginning. Sonic was there, he was spunky, he's funny and weird and cool, totally rad, and he was 16 years old, which was like really cool to people who were younger than that. When you are like a child and you imagine like, you know, what a cool person is, you're like, oh yeah, 16, you can drive. Cool, I guess. That's what makes you cool. Maybe.
I will say on record that there's not been a single... Well, I take that back. There's only been one instance when Sonic the Hedgehog was in a car. And that's arguable at best. Most likely, Sonic was just had Flintstoning it the whole way. He didn't have a motor. He didn't have any wheels. He was just zipping down with his own two legs. That's my theory on that.
Yeah. That does come up later, actually, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh,
yeah.
Nope, I'm making it worse for my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, obviously, Sonic, though, is not quite the role model that we're used to seeing as video game heroes. He has blatant disrespect for the law and is constantly seen doing what's cool and rad and don't listen to the man. And I love that for him. But what that means is that he's kind of breaking the law in a really bad, pivotal way, in that it's leading to a lot of public damages. And while it's really cool, once we get into things like Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic X, and especially Shadow the Hedgehog, which will come up, there's a lot of civilian casualties and so many dollars in public damage that I just think, while I do love Sonic, I can't say personally that I can continue respecting him and his methods of heroism. They're a little bit chaotic good. So, yeah. Here we get into, like, some of the nitty-gritty. This is where we get into, like, actually kind of categorizing things. Yeah, so we're starting, at least for me, with categorizing a lot of this stuff. I had to start with Sonic X, because that was kind of like, I guess, my jumping off point as a child into Sonic. There's also one very specific VHS tape of the old Sonic cartoon that I watched, like, over and over at my aunt's house. I don't remember what episode or what happened in it at all, but I remember just watching that one episode over and over. And Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. So I started with those kind of as, like, the framework of where we're going to, like, debut all of these being, like, owed. So, while in the US, like I said, he's not above the law. So we are going to consider this as prosecuting him to the full extent of it. And I have done about as much, like, collection as I can in terms of funds without just immediately relating it to jail time. Because, again, I have no idea how that translates in the actual judicial system. I just know how to crunch some numbers into a calculator. So, yeah. We can debate some of these things because, we get into some tricky waters later, but we'll explain. Sonic is actually one of the easiest to cover, which is not what I expected going into this. I expected this to be so much worse, and, Sonic is, like, the most tame.
I will say, most of Sonic's crimes that he has committed, so to speak, are a result of him being framed. So we have to take that into consideration.
I do suppose that is true. I do still have resisting arrest categorized a couple times, but I try to take in... I do have some leniency, especially with, like, Knuckles, because we get into, like, really weird, waters of, like, national territory lines, and also, laws considering extraterrestrial objects falling into, open water. Because there are actually, like, laws about that, which is pretty wild. But they actually mostly go in people's favor. But again, we'll get into that. So,
Misty Mountain is saying if we can raise my volume a little bit.
yes, absolutely. Here, come here, Steven.
Okay, I'm here.
Is he louder?
It looks so weird seeing that pop up right in front of me.
Right?
I hear myself a lot louder now, so I think that's good.
Okay, awesome. Ooh, and I didn't put you under your frame. Oh well. Here we are.
It's fine.
You were still under there. It was just a little corner that was bothering me. So, anyway. We are not going to include accrued jail time, but I am counting life sentences should they come up, because that in itself is like its own, like, unit of measure. And there's really nothing monetarily that can really compare to that, which boy are we gonna get into. So we might as well just kick things off with Sonic. Also, ages are going to impact some of these. So I'm going with his canonical age when he debuted, which was 16. This is kind of like gone back and forth between with like in Sonic Colors, I think he was declared to be 18 and Tails around 14. So if that were the case, I could prosecute him as an adult, but I can't. He's 16, so some things are a little bit different. Also, yes, I think that chat in this case is playing the role of jury, and I am, I guess, prosecutor and also judge, which isn't fair at all. But it's my PowerPoint, and Banjo over here is, I guess you'd be the defense lawyer? But also, like, what do we call the record keeper? Just the attorney? Because we don't have a bailiff in this situation.
Now, I will say this. You have the points up on screen, and there's one thing I did want to ask, just for clarification.
Yes.
Speeding tickets. Are these for every instance of him going above the lawful speed, like running, or is this just him driving?
No, this is him running above the speed because, as we saw in the debut episode of Sonic X back in, I believe, was it 2004? He was still chased down by police as a threat and considered, like, along the same lines as a sort of reckless driver, even though he wasn't in a car. So that is why they sent out the SSPD as well as Sam Speed, who is Chris's uncle, and that's a whole lot of lore. But, yeah, so speeding tickets, I counted these not for when he is in a car, because I decided to count that in a separate category of driving without a license and reckless driving. That was also in episode 21, where he is in a car, like you mentioned before. So, all of the speeding tickets that he accrued include all of them on Earth, and I counted in Sonic X, as well as different game titles, because I assumed in all of the game titles it would just be lumped kind of into one. Because, like in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, you get, like, Gun chasing him, like, the entire game. So I assumed it'd just be, like, one count that they could find. Hey, and there was that truck, so I'm pretty sure that would also count as reckless driving on both accounts. But I'm not about to prosecute Gun. So, but it does not include Sonic and the Black Knight, because it didn't take place in our time period, and there were no vehicles or roads back in medieval times. And also, Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games, because that's on a track and it's legal. I don't know why they let Sonic race.
Now, here's something else for the jury to consider. All right, we have charges for speeding tickets and reckless driving for Mr. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
But we also have to keep in mind, like, would you write a ticket to a cheetah running? Would you like fine a gorilla for having sentience to be able to think for themselves and, you know, run away from somebody? I mean, Sonic at the end of the day is a hedgehog. He's an animal. Why should we throw the book at him for him simply running? Because
he is a sentient creature at human level. Maybe even a higher sentience than humans, but that's because we don't understand Mobian technology, and that's why I kind of got a little bit when it comes into, like, what's a person compared to a Mobian. And I'm not an ethics professor. I'm just an idiot who's making a Sonic PowerPoint. I'm not prepared to debate that. I'm just gonna pretend that he's kind of a person. Like an anthropomorphized hedgehog.
All right.
I really can't escape this thing. If you think that he's kind of hot, he probably looks vaguely like a human. So I'm just gonna treat him kind of like a human. Look, there are people in chat, brother. We know it. The judge acknowledges this bias. Some people just think that these people are hot. And I just can't say that without saying these are probably related to people. So, I would say you can give a ticket to a hedgehog that has at least the knowledge of knowing what he's doing, is definitely not allowed enough to, like, run frequently from police. And also hate Sam Speed, who is basically if NASCAR let cops in. And dude, it's a whole unit. It's a whole unit in that world. Why do you think we should not put cops in the fastest vehicles known to man? Also, when they have huge egos. Or let them shut down an entire city for a race. We're not gonna think about that one, though. But aside from that, I did Reckless Driving, episode 21. That, I believe, includes the episode where Sam Speed and Sonic race, and briefly he does take over his vehicle. So, Reckless Driving on both accounts, technically. I don't know how Sam Speed is still in the force. Petty Theft, he does steal a lot. And specifically, in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. But when he visited with James Marsden, the biggest rubber band ball in the world. He stole a lot of things. Destruction of public property. There really isn't a monetary value associated with this. It depends on the property and if it's private or public or, like, what it is. So I just kind of amounted it to, like, grand city destruction or demolition, which is around $250,000. Which that's probably even lowballing it. But then also, accessory to underage drinking. Sonic the Hedgehog walks into a bar, and it is assumed that he is drinking. He does actually order a soda, but why would you put this child mascot in a bar and have the sickest music track and action sequence to follow if it wasn't supposed to be seen as really cool? And while I do agree, that was so sick, it's not really good for children. Also, cheers, because I'm not acting as an accessory to underage drinking. This is adult drinking.
Okay, so I will give you this.
Mm-hmm.
The resisting arrest, there's not much I can say for the boy. Petty theft, destruction of property, all of those, you got me on there. But I still stand behind. Now, I will give you this. The ones where he's in a vehicle, reckless driving and speeding tickets, I think he's guilty on that. But when he's on his own 2 feet, it's kind of hard to, like, if he's to be tried as a human and treated with, equal rights, can a human be given a speeding ticket if they're running? I mean, resisting arrest, of course, but if they're, like, running on their own 2 feet, how can they be given a speeding ticket?
I think I did count this more so in the idea of he is still in, like, a heavily populated area. Okay. And almost always has to, like, run through these places, and it's definitely dangerous if you can see him, I guess. But, I think it's a little bit more slippery when, like, what is a speed limit? Like, you have it attached to a road, and it is how fast that a car could potentially be going on the road. But it doesn't ever specifically say car. Because, like, you can have other vehicles on the road, or means of transportation. You can have a horse and buggy on the road still. Probably, like, maybe endanger some people, but it's not illegal as far as I know, as long as you're not on, like, the highway. So, if, say, a speed limit is set at, like, 15 miles per hour, and you are able to run at, like, 30, in the road and keep up with other cars. Without, like, endangering them necessarily, but you're just going really fast. Should you also be issued a ticket for that?
You know, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, it sounds like we have another point in your favor. It's hard to see my boy just doing so many crimes. And we have a question in chat real quick. So inquiring minds ask, how does Sonic poop? Is that going to be touched up in this PowerPoint today?
No, this is just them during the legal system and trial hearings. As far as I know, in regular human court, we don't bring up how a person does or does not poop. But also everyone knows girls can't poop, so I'm at, like, a real loss here as to, like, how I could defend that.
Sorry, Tsukina. We can't discuss the bowel movements of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's more for, like, if the jury wants to take time and, like, pass notes back and forth and discuss this, y'all are more than able.
They are.
Yeah,
like they definitely are.
Yeah, no, you all got this letter for jury duty, and I'm not expecting you to participate. What matters is that you're just here fulfilling a civic duty. What you do in your own time, up to you.
Civic duty, more like it. Eh?
I definitely didn't see that coming. Anyway, so let's get to the numbers. Sonic accrued almost $500,000 in all of these things. So, 212 speeding tickets. Let's be known, I did not include the Archie Comics universe, because as I told Banjo prior to this, that would include me delving into the Archie-verse and subsequently the Riverdale universe, and assuming that Sonic and friends have some kind of, like, cosmic butterfly effect on the Riverdale cast, I don't want to get into that. I physically can't do, it's like the Lovecraftian law of, like, if I pour into my knowledge cup, I'm pouring out from my sanity cup. So I don't want to touch that. If anyone else wants to think about Riverdale and Sonic, by God, do that, but I can't. So, without comics, because those issues would go on forever, and also most of it takes place on Mobius anyway and in space, so that doesn't apply to US law, I counted 212 individual tickets. So that includes video games and, television episodes, and I believe, non-title games. So, like, I think I did include Super Smash Brothers in there. Because if you're on the, Captain Falcon Raceway, that does count. Because you are in a car. Driving without a license, 2, reckless driving, 1, just because of that incident with Sam Speed, but that is also kind of his fault. Resisting arrest. He does so twice. Once at the beginning of the Sonic X TV series. He is almost arrested. And that obviously doesn't work. He decides to find a small human boy and nearly drown in his pool instead, like real gamers do. And then the second time, he was framed for, I believe, one of Shadow's crimes against, like, possibly assassinating the president and trying to steal one of the Chaos Emeralds. Either way, he was sent to essentially futuristic Guantanamo Bay. And, I can't remember quite how he got out of there, but it was like a personal isolation underwater cube, and I'm like, that's pretty messed up, especially when I'm, like, 9 years old watching this. Public property, I can't put a number on that. I really can't. Trespassing, 79 different counts, because I think I had to count most of these as happening mostly in the Sonic X universe, and trespassing on, like, government buildings, and also Dr. Robotnik's laboratory, because I believe he was still sanctioned by the US military at this point. So that does count as trespassing. And accessory to underage drinking. I don't care if he was with James Marsden. It's still not cool to make it seem like Sonic can drink when he's only 16. However, if he is 18 in the new movie, I'll let it slide.
You have to ask. So
yes.
You brought up a lot of points from Sonic X. So there are a lot of situations between X and Adventure 2 that overlap and are essentially the same thing recounted.
Yes.
Is that given into consideration with these totals here?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So that's why, like, I just counted one of them if they were just going to accrue from, like, the same occurrence in the timeline. So, like, resisting arrest, that could technically also piggyback off of Stage 1 City Escape when he was running from the gun truck. But we weren't really given context as to why he was being chased in that way. And also, he was already arrested in the, like, opening scene. So, I can't really say he resisted it if he was already captured. So, I guess that would be escaping military personnel. But I don't know really how that tracks in terms of money. Because in the military, that's just desertion. And you can get sent out for that. So, I don't know, they probably didn't want him there anyway, so I'm guessing if, like, he jumps out, not their problem anymore. So I'm just not gonna count that, actually. I don't want to. Let's get to Tails. He is 13 years old. He's just a tiny little guy. But unfortunately, he's the mechanic. And kind of the brains behind the Sonic crew. And the guy that rivals Dr. Eggman. And, he does a lot of things when it comes to operating machinery without a license. Because, again, he's coming from Mobius, or I'm guessing that, like, licensed practice isn't really a thing. And also, in the US, that's an absolute joke. I don't think licensed, anything, really, should have to be taken into account. And that people should be arrested for operating without a license, even if they're really good at something. It's just a way to persecute the lower class. Anyway, Tails is still under this, though. I told you, we're going into this. So, he operates a lot of heavy machinery without a license. And that's apparently in the US, $13,000. But I had to apply this for the laws with forklifts. Because we don't currently have a law for robots. So, that was, like, the closest thing I could get to, like, with having a set monetary value attached. You get what I mean? Like, like, when we think of, like, operating heavy machinery, like, when you take pills or something, you automatically think forklift instead of, like, you know, car, like it's supposed to be. So I just assumed forklift would work fine here. Because most of his things are, like, about as big as a forklift anyway. And also, it's more so Robotnik that's, like, really operating machinery without it. But, he was also piloting aircrafts without a license. And that is so much more money than I ever thought it would be. It doesn't even matter if anyone is on board. If you operate a plane without a license, it's just gonna start at $250,000. Which is insane to me. Not to mention, he was flying the aircraft in unauthorized zones. So, I also include that as, the White House, for one, which is definitely an unauthorized zone, and, other government buildings like Gun and Dr. Robotnik's labs. He also resisted arrest.
Real quick.
Huh?
We have a question real quick.
Yes.
And I think this is important for the presentation. Are we using their age as hedgehog age or animal age, or are we doing this in the regards of their 13 years human-wise?
I believe these are in human years because as far as I could tell, these, like, I'm not sure in terms of orbit what an Earth year is to a Mobian year. So, and also how long Mobians live in comparison to humans, and if species has anything to do with that. So I kind of just had to go off, like, the human equivalent. Because Sega never really tells us this. And I feel like if they did and said, like, yeah, Tails is, like, 2 months old on Mobius, but he's 13 in, like, Earth, I wouldn't know what to do with that information, frankly. So, yeah, this is just, like, human equivalent years.
Say that is probably a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is going to tie in more with the comics.
Mm-hmm.
as far as the IDW run and taking elements from Archie comics, making it more canon to Sega's eyes, there have been Mobians like Tails and Sonic that have physically aged to like 40.
Yeah.
And they're 40 years old, but they look to be like the same kind of age on there. So I think this is probably going to be more...
It's kind of like an Ash Ketchum situation.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You don't really know for sure until, like, the actual creators say anything otherwise. So, this was really all I had to go with. Also, you do have to be careful, because if you look up, like, how old is Knuckles, you get something crazy like 53 years, or, like, something like that, because it's counting, like, from... conceptualized date in the real world to current day. So, like, some of these ages I had to go in and do math for, because Google did not want to believe that I was trying to figure out their ages as people. God forbid. But we have destruction of public property. Originally, like we discussed with Sonic, there really isn't a number for that, so I just equated that to 250k, except episode 30 of Sonic X, where he defuses a bomb that nearly blew up the entire city. So I'm pretty sure, based on that council, that is just, in at least that version of the government's eyes, and probably ours, just null. Because then there wouldn't be anything to charge for. You'd just be starting over. So, at the end of all of these... Tails nearly has $1 million worth in accrued fines. He's literally like double Sonic.
Is it such a crime, though, for a fox to have hobbies?
No, I'm not saying it is. Like, I'm not gonna say that, like... Okay, but in my actions as the prosecutor, if I were to look at someone who created said bomb, Robotnik, and said, is it wrong for him to have hobbies like soldering or like engineering? I'd be like, no. But that's not what you did. You made a bomb. And in Tails' case, he made 2 planes, neither of which he had a license for. Both the Tornado and the X-Tornado, which also had guns. I cannot believe someone subscribed during this.
Thank you for the subscription. Welcome to this madness.
Welcome, brave adventurer.
All of our fucking furry friends are war criminals, and it's terrible to watch.
To be fair, some of them aren't war criminals yet. You'd be surprised at who the first war criminal is. Because so far, Sonic and Tails have done nothing to directly impact the US as like a whole or give any evidence of treason or terrorism. However, Knuckles, this is where we get into some like tricky territory. Knuckles has assaulted people frequently, and also other scientists and gun personnel. He has resisted arrest, obviously, when he, like, both just in general and when he arrived in Sonic X. Everyone just resists arrest, and I don't know why they keep trying. But he did destroy government property in that he has destroyed parts of Dr. Robotnik's labs in the quest to find more parts of the Master Emerald. And he has also destroyed, I think, a couple gun, like, vehicles and, like, fortresses, but also Angel Island is a whole thing. So, we know of Angel Island, or we know, as in me and Banjo here as the experts. Angel Island is kind of like its own territory and houses the Master Emerald, which is what Knuckles and a lot of the other Echidnas protect. So when everybody got zapped over into Earth, Angel Island actually came with it and crash-landed into Earth, kind of just outside the Dominican Republic, I believe? So from there, the U.S. was actually able to seize that as a territory and do investigations on it. But during that time, that's when Knuckles snuck onto the island and starting really just wrecking shop and trying to get back the Master Emerald. And according to the U.S., that is considered treason and also very close to just straight up terrorism. But considering he was just trying to steal back the territory, it's mostly just treason, because we can't set him on, like, another location because they don't know where he came from, and I am not about to ask. So, yeah, treason is a lot. It's $10,000 per account, but technically... these are his accrued fines. Knuckles is the first to accrue the death penalty, and therefore be a candidate for war criminal.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah! So Knuckles goes hard, and when I was researching this, holy cannoli, when I read that, I was just kind of like, but they don't understand Angel Island, and that's the point. The U.S. doesn't understand Angel Island, and they don't understand foreign territories at all. They think everything belongs to us, and it doesn't. Give it back to the Echidna. Anyway, he gets together $240,000 flat, which is less than Sonic, but he still accrued close to the death penalty, if not just life in prison. So, kind of incredible.
I will interrupt for just a quick second.
No, please do.
So, is it really a war crime when a man is just trying to not only reclaim his own jewels, but his home as well? I mean, Knuckles was just doing the hot-blooded American thing and standing his ground. I don't think he should be persecuted or put to death for being Knuckles. I wouldn't chuckle if that was the case.
Well, if... unfortunately, we are to thumb back through the pages of American history. The Alamo makes for a very poor example in your favor. There is technically, like, personally nothing wrong with defending Angel Island, and also Angel Island has a really fun, pleasant soundtrack, if y'all haven't heard it. But it was definitely noble of Knuckles to go after it because the U.S. didn't know what kind of powers they were dealing with and what they actually had at their disposal, thank God. But isn't that kind of what we always do? I'm not advocating for the U.S. government or the judiciary system in the slightest in giving this PowerPoint. I need everyone to know that. But in doing so, I'm afraid I had to give Knuckles life in prison. This isn't something...
tragedy.
Yeah, it really is quite the tragedy. But yeah, so assault, I think I had that listed to including Sonic and Friends as well, after they got sanctioned in the U.S. as, like, allies. Government property, yeah, I think that was Dr. Robotnik's labs. X, Angel Island. It's kind of foggy. Trespassing, 11 counts, because he does trespass onto government property 11 different times in between Sonic X and, I believe, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, including the space station. So, that's a little harder. So, moving on, we get to our favorite bad boy, Shadow the Hedgehog. He's
completely innocent.
Yeah, definitely. Shadow's done nothing wrong. And I could not be more incorrect in saying that. Shadow...
before we get started into this, I
yes,
have
please.
to say, listen, Shadow's got a lot going on. So whatever you guys...
God, he does! He's been through so much, y'all. Like, breaking out of the judge role for a moment... God, this guy was asleep and all this just had to happen. He didn't ask for that. Who does ask to be born, right? Who does ask? That shouldn't be his crime. You know, maybe I should talk about that at some point. with, like, is it unlawful to have created Shadow in the first place, and can we still prosecute him? Or is he a continuation of human consciousness onto a new creature? That's probably really slippery territory. I'm gonna move on. So Shadow is chronologically 50, which means he does qualify for DILF, but he is, like, theoretically 15 in relation to, like, how he appears in age as a Mobian. Also, I'm not incorrect. I'm not. Shadow's a DILF.
Okay, no, I will give you this. Ravenheart just asked, he's a minor. To your point, Crash, he is not just 15. He's been, basically, I think it's cryostasis.
Yes, correct.
Is that correct? So he is roughly about 50, because you got to remember, it wasn't the Eggman that we know who created Shadow. It was his, was it his uncle?
It was Gerald Robotnik.
Yeah, Gerald Robotnik.
With his daughter, Maria. And holy shit, that's a rough one for Shadow. But going along with the information I have here, he does get speeding tickets once again. That excludes Sonic and the Black Knight. There were no traffic laws in the Middle Ages, and Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games. He was allowed to compete. I don't know why. He'd just win everything. I don't know. Fun game, though. He did resist arrest. A lot. So much. Also Class A misdemeanor, because he has assaulted human beings on multiple occasions. Operating a motorcycle without a license. He does operate a motorcycle in his own title game, Shadow the Hedgehog. It's one of the coolest parts about the game. Hell yeah, he can bike now. It's illegal, but god is it cool. He's also guilty of second-degree murder and first-degree murder. And that's where things get a little bit difficult. Once again, destruction of public property, I don't know. I just keep chalking it up as $250,000. Because I just don't know what to equate that with. So I'm just pretending it's that much money.
You can have a license for a motorcycle at 15, but Shadow does not. So we do have to keep in mind that
Thank you, defense attorney.
All these guys. Yeah, I'm not doing a good job right now, but I don't care. But to be honest, like none of these people that we've talked about so far have a license in any regard. You may be able to argue Tails does. That's very gray area.
On Mobius, he probably does, but this is the Mobius. U.S.
Yeah.
It's like if you come from... It's like practicing medicine in different countries. You do have to have different licenses depending on where you go, and some are accepted in other countries, some not. So it's kind of an iffy situation, but god am I assuming that a Mobian motorcycle license does not equal a U.S. one. I could be wrong. If anyone works at the DMV, please let me know. I would love to know that. Also, he carries so many guns. Way too many. One is too many for a hedgehog. This guy owns so many. Yeah, as based on the 25 different firearm or projectile-based weapons in Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. I also had to go ahead and include a vacuum cannon, which is a weapon in Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's like a projectile sort of firearm weapon, so I also counted that as a gun. Also, terrorism and treason. We kind of got into that with Knuckles, but Shadow straight up just committed actual terrorism. That's 7 years to life with no bail. So I also just put that at $1 million. Because again, there is no like money equivalent when it gets into like life sentences. And it's just a lot. I didn't want to think about all of that possible money. So he ended up accruing, with all of this, $1.8 million. Which...
Now, I will come to my client's defense here.
Yes.
People of the jury, please keep in mind that...
I like to think that you're just, like, pacing Green Hill Zone with a paper. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Let me make this more official. All right, people of the jury.
Yes!
I have irrefutable evidence that my client was temporarily insane during these actions that he so-called committed. Let me tell you a history about Shadow the Hedgehog. Not only did he not ask to be born, none of us did, but he specifically did not ask to be born. But he went through the tragic loss of a loved one. He was put to sleep for 35 years, was it?
Yes.
Only to be woken up by an insane man. And I would dare say Shadow was tricked. Yes, tricked is the word, into committing the majority of these crimes. And not only that, let me tell you.
So you claim that your client was more an accessory to these crimes rather than a perpetrator?
I would say that, and along with that, he was undergoing so much traumatic stress. He had so much PTSD, everything going around him. Not only that, but he also got amnesia during the time that he got these guns and committed this treason. There's no way that he did not suffer temporary insanity. We have to keep that in mind, that my boy, my client, Shadow the Hedgehog, he's just an innocent bystander in a fucked up world.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I guess so.
Aren't we among us who are currently giving this presentation also innocent bystanders to a fucked up world? But I am glad you brought that up, because in Shadow the Hedgehog 2005, which is about as close as I can get to getting a genuine account from your client, there are multiple universes and multiple timelines that one can take through that game that lead to different actions. You can make the case that he could plead insanity at the beginning of the game because, yes, records do show that he did have amnesia. But, going off of that, he allied with an extraterrestrial threat known as Doom's Eye, and using that, he not only overthrew gun personnel, but also laid waste to much of the natural world and invited extraplanar entities into the Earth to cause havoc. That leads to up to 4 counts of individual treason. So, it's a little iffy. Also, we have been provided evidence from the jury. The vacuum gun sucks up to 20 objects or enemies that then gives you health. Okay, fine.
Time to be hungry.
Yeah, I eat like that. I guess we can take away 1 count of having a gun without a license, so that takes off, where do I have that? Yeah, we can take off about $500 of that. So we'll put it at 1.835
Making progress, gang. Making progress.
$0.35 million. Also, Ohio is open carry, but that's Ohio. Ohio doesn't get rights in this.
I mean, judging by the landscape,
It's
the hellscape that he was in, it's most likely that he was in Ohio at the time of these events.
Was he in Ohio? Or was he just in outer, like, I don't know, Bristol?
Could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. The jury.
Or, I'll bring you this.
Was he in Ohio?
Birmingham.
Well, at that point, if he's in Birmingham, it doesn't matter if he has a gun or not. Come on now.
Well, yeah, I get that it doesn't matter to the general public, but we're talking about the U.S. government here, which doesn't apply in Birmingham or Ohio. We all know this. It's in the papers.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
So, also, yeah, I didn't mention that, but it's at the top. He does accrue so many life sentences. There's no possibility for bail or parole, like, for any of this. But
I love the emphasis on fuck ton of life sentences.
Dude, because it was so many. Like, these things just keep stacking. It's so much that I didn't even want to begin. And also, I feel like Shadow would curse, so he gets a curse word on his slide. And then moving on to the biggest baddest. Eggman. Dr. Robotnik. First and foremost, not a doctor. He is frauding a doctor's license. So that's $50,000 right off the bat. He is not actually a doctor. He is just a scientist and an inventor. That's not real. And also, that was on Mobius, so I can't even say that. Everybody resists arrest, so we don't need to go over that anymore. He also operates heavy machinery without a license. Plenty of times. So I also had to include the law for forklifts in that, because there's no laws for giant drill robots, or bombs that walk, or one that's literally just a giant turbine. Like, we don't have that yet. Yet. He also piloted aircrafts without a license multiple times. He flies around, like, everywhere. Those legs can't take him anywhere. Flying in an unauthorized flight zone. Also, I didn't mention it with Tails, but that is not factual evidence. I scoured so many government websites and could not find a monetary value for flying an aircraft in an unauthorized flight zone, which I know is a bad and illegal thing. So then why won't you tell me what happens if I do it? I couldn't find it. So I just threw it on there. Also, he gets second and first degree murder, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. Destruction of public property. We do get into the illegal testing. Trespassing on government property, terrorism. Look, y'all, he took over the moon.
He didn't just take over it, he shot a fucking hole in it.
Yeah, he did he's really done some shit to the moon, y'all.
Oh, God.
He's done a lot of shit. Oh. Yeah, so, like, I get that the US doesn't directly influence, like, or take into account the damage done to the moon, but God, it's a lot. Also, unethical biological experimentation. However, that is reduced to $0. Banjo, would you like to gander a guess why?
Because the biological experimentation was on behalf of the U.S.
Correct! We, once again, screwed up in the biggest possible way and decided to go with biological warfare. Again. And how do you think it went? Poorly! So, like, he can't really be charged for that. They paid him to do it. So, that's just kind of built in. Like, how did you not think of that? Also, Dr. Robotnik is 45. I never knew that. But he
never guessed he was 45, honestly.
Right? He's just an unknowable age. Right? He just doesn't have... I can't assign a number to this face when I look at him. There's a power here. But anyway, he accrued $26 million. And also, he is the first to accrue an intergalactic death penalty. So, fraud of a doctor's license, we got that. Resisting arrest, 4 different counts. He was arrested 3 different times, and then one, I believe, was running away from one of these space stations where he was sent as, like, a prison sentence. Wild. Operating heavy machinery. He has operated close, I could only really condense it into 300 different robots. Taking into account, like, different mobs and stuff from all these other video games, and then episodes of Sonic X that featured his robots. So I couldn't just go in and, like, count episodes of Sonic X, because not all of them were just caused by Robotnik. Sometimes it was Sam Speed, the dipshit cop NASCAR uncle. But then we have, flying an aircraft in an unauthorized, zone. He just did that a lot. I didn't really even know how many, and I didn't count. So I just said 20 because I thought it sounded fine. Also, yeah, 76 aircrafts without a license, because that includes games, including the little ones that he hovers over in our good old Green Hill Zone. I had to include those. Trespassing, also, I didn't know, so I just said 3. Terrorism. He's literally a terrorist on 2 planets. We've been over this. He straight up just tried to, like, take over Mobius first, and then just moved on to the US. He was just like, now that looks like free real estate, both times, and just didn't learn his lesson. And still, even with that, 2 counts of treason. The planet that he was originally on, Mobius, and the US, because he was supposed to make a space station, and then he went and made terrible things up there. What are you gonna do? You put him in a toy box. You gave him these things.
Now, I will say this.
Yes.
People of the jury, please keep in mind that Shadow, while we have the defense of temporary insanity, Dr. Eggman is clinically insane. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're looking at a man who's under so much stress, so much PTSD. He just misses his wife. He hasn't been the same. His wife was having an affair with 2 hedgehogs at that. That would make any man insane. It's cross species at that point. Of course, he would have a vendetta against the world that he's in, and it would drive him to madness. Clearly, I mean, he was clearly mad. He was undergoing PTSD when he looked at the moon and he blew it up. So I'm saying, please consider that when passing your verdict on Dr. Ivo Robotnik.
Hey, y'all. You among the jury. Have y'all ever gotten cucked before, and so you looked at the moon and decided, I'm gonna blow a hole in that to solve my problems?
I know I have.
Put it on record. That's just not a thing you do. Like, yeah, he's insane, but there was so much thought put into that. Like, yeah, I guess you could get a little bit mad, but not that mad. But also, with the biological experimentation, that opened up like a whole new can of worms. I did count his 1 degree of first-degree murder to Sonic the Hedgehog. Again, a whole multiple timelines things, resurrections, you get it. Second-degree murder. Now, I could go, like, a little iffy on this one, but, he did once attempt to, I believe, what was his last name? I can't remember, but defendant Chris, he nearly murdered this child by crashing a ship into the sea. So, yeah. He kidnapped a child, and then nearly just killed both of them. If it hadn't been for Rouge the Bat, who we have decided to politically pardon for the time being, saving him and surrendering Chaos Emeralds in the process, multiple, then it would kind of be a little bit trickier. But, yeah, that's second-degree murder. Like, can't really argue with that one. But also, I should go into detail, back in one of Shadow the Hedgehog's charges of, second-degree murder. That also applies to Sonic, one of those counts. However, it can be said that he was just an accessory to murder through Mephiles the Dark from the Sonic the Hedgehog Xbox game. And it was his belief that he was helping to seal away these powers and was simply working as anti-hero. But, yeah, Sonic literally got and then kissed a human woman, but we're not gonna talk about that. So yeah. But, we do have some, honorable mentions. Amy Rose here? There's not actually, like, laws in place, which this, like, kind of confused me for a while. There are no real laws in place for, like, soliciting marriage onto another person, but also, like, sexual harassment between 2 minors? You can't really be, like, tried for that in the traditional way, which I think is really messed up, but also at the same time, Amy Rose is just a creep, and I don't want anything to do with her. So, yeah, she's an honorable mention, because she didn't accrue any actual fines or jail time, but, yeah, God, Amy Rose. Then also, the Jim Carrey Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie edition, I say that this kind of falls not necessarily on Jim Carrey or Dr. Robotnik, but on the Sega Corporation and Paramount Pictures, because they did the unthinkable crime of making him attractive and funny and charismatic to the point that I ha-ha'd and kind of felt something deep in my, heart when they did a musical number to Evil Grows in the Dark. And I think that that's a form of psychological warfare and should not be expunged from this record. I think...
That's gonna affect Sega stock so bad.
Dude. They made him fuckable. I can't just sit idly by and pretend that that's not a problem. Listen, I was gonna say loins, but I didn't feel right saying that. But... anyway, so, yeah, he can't really be, punished for that. That's more, two corporations, and as we all know, you can't punish a mega corporation in a capitalist society. But, going off of this, there is one more, potential fiend that I have yet to disclose with this PowerPoint, because we are so used to Sonic and Friends and the title characters, we don't consider the major threat and the political ripple effect that this thing's existence has on, the US and, honestly, our galaxy. And that is... oh, well, I forgot about this guy, but yeah, he should go to jail. But anyway, the Bio-Lizard. The Ultimate Lifeform Project. Mach 2. So obviously, we didn't learn from the first time around with Shadow the Hedgehog being the ultimate lifeform. So, per the events of both Sonic X and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the Bio-Lizard was commissioned by the US government from the Robotniks, so continuing from Gerald Robotnik's original research going into our current Dr. Eggman Robotnik, to make just the worst possible fucked up thing they could and turn it into a weapon. And it's also alive, because why wouldn't it be? So, the Bio-Lizard, it can be said that it runs on nuclear as well as biological power, so it's pretty much a walking bomb. It's also huge. It wants to kill everything it encounters, but, Sir Defense Attorney, it can be said that it didn't ask to be born, and also it is not of sound mind to want to reason with its creators or anyone near it at all when it has a fabricated conscience. So, but either way, this Bio-Lizard was used as, a power source for the lunar city that we talked about with just blowing a hole in the moon. Eggman put this lizard up there and found out that you could run a ton of things off of it and turn it into an engine, which is already kind of messed up, but then again, the government commissioned that and didn't say what he could or couldn't do with the lizard. That's kind of on us, oopsie daisy. But then, not only did this lizard just go hog wild and try to kill Shadow the Hedgehog first, so that's just ultimate life form on ultimate life form violence, it attached itself to the lunar city, and it intended to crash land it into the earth and destroy it out of vehemence for anything that helped create it and any biological form that it came from. And so I don't really have a way of, specifically, categorizing or bringing a monetary amount to intergalactic terrorism and a crime against not only humanity, but a crime against creation? That has some pretty big cosmic, little details in there. So, yeah, Bio-Lizard ended up accruing so much more. He sucks so much. I hate this thing. It's the grossest little thing, and I hate the boss fight. It's really icky, and I don't like how it screams. So, yeah, it did a lot of really evil stuff. And, yeah. I also said, declaration of war on the living genome, which that definitely doesn't have a monetary amount placed on it yet, because that concept has never even been entertained. So, but it is a little bit better because Sonic and Shadow do end up teaming up, going supersonic, and then you get to fight it in space. And it's really freaking hard. But it's pretty sick because then the main theme plays again, and that's how you know you're at the cool end of the game, when they do a reprise of the original track. So,
I will say this real quick.
Yes, please.
The jury, people of the court, please keep in mind that when it comes to the BioLizard, there are many things I can say to its defense. Will I say them? No, because I hate that motherfucker. But
correct.
I am with Crash Candy on this, that it needed to be ended. And you know what? Sonic and Shadow, they lived and learned, and they brought it down. And that makes them not war criminals, that makes them heroes.
Insert the guitar riff from Live and Learn.
Right?
And then roll credits. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I guess, yeah, that's the conclusion of the PowerPoint. So, my, main conclusion here was that, the biggest problem was kind of, that overarching, issue of if you have beings that have consciousness, you are going to have war, because there's no order without war, so you're inevitably going to have things that interact in ways that you don't want, which is why it doesn't really apply that well to the US government, because it's so rigid, and the judiciary system doesn't allow for that cool wiggle room of saying, hey, this was a really cool intergalactic alien that's kind of attractive to some weird people. Can't we just call them a hero? Wouldn't we just love that? So, yeah, I would say personally that the only ones that I really can't legally pardon in this situation are Dr. Robotnik, and of course the BioLizard. Fuck that thing. But Dr. Robotnik does have kind of a tragic story leading up to it, but so do a lot of criminals. And it's the thing that, he readily rebelled against any form of government power and never learned his lesson. He was just like, oh, well, that sucked. I'm gonna go make this other kind of robot now. And just keep doing it over and over again. So, yeah. Any final thoughts, Sir Attorney? And also from the jury. Not that there's really a guilty or not guilty in this situation. I would just love to know what on earth is rattling around in your heads right now that I've been given the opportunity to put this into the world.
I know, speaking for myself, I walked into this with a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And I'm leaving this with a lot more questions.
Nice! Yay!
I did not fully grasp just the legal, the magnitude of legal repercussions that Sonic and crew have on the United States judicial system. My God.
Dude, I did not expect to have to fall this deep down a rabbit hole when I confronted this. I thought it was going to be so much easier. And I straight up thought that some of these, especially Tails and Knuckles, who really don't do much in terms of messing with people aside from people they personally have beef with. It's I expected them to have just such few little misdemeanors here and there, but my God, starting right off the rip with almost $500,000 really just blindsided me in the process.
I still can't it makes sense when you bring it up, but you would not consider that Tails would need a license for literally everything he does.
Yeah, except licensed employment is just a huge thing down here.
Yep.
And I say down here in terms of on Earth in the US and not on Mobius. But
I do want to see.
Yes.
I want to find Mobian law. I would like to open that and see what it says in context to their crimes against the U.S.
I will grant a momentary pardon so that I may also do research into that. So, let me see, perchance. What does this have on that? Sonic. Now, this also depends on if Mobius operates as a planet state or, like a city-state country, or if it is separated into separate countries, because I'm pretty sure it is. We have Mobius's world leaders. United States of Mobius? Federal Constitutional Republic?
What? Where
First
did you
Lady
find
is
that?
Sally Acorn! Declaration of Independence, August 17th, 2005. That's when Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, was released. Oh, that probably put a lot of wrenches in this plan. Interesting. Did this happen on Mobius, or was this on the planet Earth? Well, this was constructed by the Freedom Fighters, but it doesn't say if it was on Earth.
Now, there is one thing that I noticed that you didn't really bring up.
Yes.
But you could consider Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles to be eco-terrorists. Knuckles, not so much, but Sonic and Tails definitely are eco-terrorists.
How so?
Well, I don't know.
I just thought it would be fun to say.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun to say, but no. So, a little bit of lore that... So, we're not going to take Archie Comics into...
No, as little as we can.
But as far as the IDW run, which is... it is the canon comic book line for Sonic now. The Freedom Fighters do still exist. Sonic is a member of them, so are Tails and Knuckles, and what they do against Eggman can be considered eco-terrorism, because they're freedom fighters, but there are still things that they do that would classify themselves as terrorists. A lot with like resisting arrest and trespassing and treason, and a lot of the other issues fall into that as well.
Okay. Well, with some research here, it does say that Mobius does have 4 world leaders. So it's assumed that each quadrant kind of behaves like its own, like, city-state sort of thing. Like its own Australia. But at one point, Sonic was appointed president, so... Interesting. But, of course, it's 4 old men. 4 old human weird-looking men. Go figure.
That makes
Even
no
on
sense.
another planet, the world leaders are just old men.
That makes no sense to me with how Mobius is like
Gosh darn it.
primarily a
Animals, right?
planet. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that, like, we have Robotnik, who's, like, human adjacent. Like, I can't confidently say a human being, because ain't nobody shaped like that. But also just, like, would humans still be the reigning species on Mobius if, like, most of the population was animals anyway? Although, I guess the same can be said for planet Earth, because humans are definitely outnumbered by flora and fauna, but they don't have the sentience required to run for office, at least not yet. But on Mobius, if they do, like with the Freedom Fighters and et al., then why aren't more of them in office?
I am finding that with the context of the planet that they're on, it is... Well, I'm seeing that it is considered Earth, but for some reason the Earth in their universe is separated between, like, humanity and the animals on the planet, if that makes any sense. Like, they have their own separate
Huh.
Governing bodies, apparently.
Okay.
That's weird.
And see, that's where we get in a tricky situation, because it's kind of like the U.S. with our untouched colonies. Because, like, there are still colonies that operate that way. Right. But we don't really have any say over what they do as, like, a whole on the planet.
Right.
Because, at least, God so far, we don't have a worldwide united terror yet to act towards, like Mobius or, like, Earth post-Mobians did. So It's kind of hard to say, like, how their leaders act in accordance and how ours would do the same, given, like a leaders' summit type deal.
Well, I definitely would say, out of everyone that you've touched up on the list, either way, he is, we throw the whole book at him, because he would definitely fall under U.S. law and be tried to the full extent of it with everything he's done.
Oh yeah, big time. Like, he's also, because he is the only one that we can really refer to as a human, where things don't get as slippery. Right. He's really the only one that can be like, oh heck yeah, thanks for the raid, Wasteland
nice.
Girl. Welcome to the weird presentation of American politics and Sonic the Hedgehog. But yeah, I think because we can't really... Oh, hello. We can't really, like, refer to any of the Mobians as people. Yeah, thank you very much for the follow. But, yeah, I think Dr. Robotnik is really about the only one. It could be said maybe Shadow could also kind of be tried in joint with Dr. Robotnik, but it would depend on the sympathy of the judge and the jury, because you could either see Shadow, like you said before, as an accessory, or they are separate parties that need to be tried, like, as separate entities. So...
Now, kind of touching up on the accessory argument, so I don't know how much of your crimes you pulled from Knuckles. Like, it sounds like most of the crimes that you pulled were from Sonic X and Adventure, but were
including Sonic the Hedgehog and Shadow the Hedgehog, and some of the little games in there.
Would you, did you pull any from pre-existing games, like Sonic 1, 2, 3?
Are you referring to, like, the Sega Genesis consoles?
Yes.
Yes, briefly. We don't get much story in terms of the Mobians interacting on Earth, as you would think, but I was able to get good evidence with Dr. Robotnik in terms of, like, you know, operating robots, animal cruelty, and operating aircraft without license. So... It's a little bit harder because they hadn't really developed any stories yet. It was mostly just, here's this wacky world. Like, you know, it's like putting politics to monkey ball. It's like there's not a whole lot to refer to yet. But now that... Oh, thank you so much, Dizzy Teacup. I tried really hard.
You need to know about Sonic. Well,
Yeah.
we just talked a lot about the PowerPoint. So, to kind of catch some of you up, everyone's a fucking criminal in this universe. Like,
but only some of them are war criminals.
Yeah, only some of them. Which, I will say, as far as Knuckles is concerned, some of those crimes he committed were under the influence of Robotnik. And I will say that he was an accessory in several of those crimes, too.
Yes. Most of mine were pretty sympathetic towards Knuckles' cause. It was mostly just the things like Angel Island being, like, established as a U.S. territory made things really tricky, because the U.S. is already really picky about that anyway, so I was like, I can't really quite excuse that one. But, yeah, if we just kind of want to take it from the top, just for people who are in here, the most notable ones, really, are... Let's just go back here. Yep. So, with Sonic the Hedgehog, most of his were just speeding tickets, and we related these to him not necessarily being in a car, but just endangering public roads with his speed. Some reckless driving, petty theft. He stole some stuff in the 2020 movie when they went to the world's biggest rubber band ball. I didn't want to put a money amount to the little gadgets, but I know one of them was a paddle ball. Also accessory to underage drinking in the 2020 movie, but that's kind of like a minor offense in comparison. But he still accrued $0.5 million. Tails, most of his stuff comes from operating heavy machinery and aircrafts without a license. So his really isn't that bad. He also gets a big pardon for destruction of public property. Yes, his name is Maurice. It's Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog. And Maurice comes from his dad. His dad is named Maurice, who was unfortunately roboticized. But for Tails, destruction of public property got pardoned because he defused a bomb that would have destroyed a city. So he got a pardon for that. He still managed to get nearly $1 million. Knuckles was the first to technically get the death penalty and become a war criminal. But that's because of his seizure of Angel Island when it was declared U.S. territory, which he was totally in the right to do. But this is about the U.S. government, not people who genuinely sympathize with Knuckles and the Mobians. Yeah, but he really got the least amount of money accrued. Shadow, God, he did a lot. It's mostly for guns and first and second degree murder. And what else did he get? Oh yeah, big scale terrorism. He gets so many life sentences. So $1.8 million.
Keep in mind on Shadow, he has the defense that he was temporarily insane and used as an accessory. So show some respect for my boy.
The defense and jury has made the plea that he can be labeled as either insane or amnesic. So it makes things a little bit difficult in some of these trials, but it does depend on the timeline of things. One of those that we really can't pardon, even though I would like to, with the insanity amnesia plea, is the Doom's Eye alliance. He already had amnesia, but he did that willingly and killed and maimed a lot of gun personnel. And granted, it was in the name of the people who killed his childhood best friend and his creators, but again, we aren't really able to give him as much sympathy as Banjo and I here would like to. Then Dr. Robotnik, God, what didn't he do? He's in jail and on death row multiple times for so much. Lots of murder, animal cruelty, terrorism, unethical biological experimentation, but he does get a pardon on that last one because the government commissioned him to make the Bio-Lizard and Shadow. So, oopsie. Yeah, $26 million. He could significantly boost our economy if he were to come clean with all this, man. It'd be kind of nuts. But, the honorable or dishonorable mentions were Amy for sexual harassment. She's kind of a creep. Go girl power, I guess. And honorable mentions for Sega and Paramount Pictures. They made Dr. Robotnik kind of fuckable and gave him a really good soundtrack, and the coat design is really, really sick. So I was kind of mad and horny and confused, kind of like all at the same time. Not that I'm about to bounce on it or anything, but like, it's just such a troubling situation. And then, yeah, he ended up being the one that goes to jail the most because, duh, we all kind of saw that coming. But the Ultimate Lifeform Project ends up being the big kahuna because he, kind of, like, how did we put it? Declared war on the living genome. And he also tried to crash the moon into the Earth. So, I mean, Robotnik almost did that too, but like, you know, the hand that's in the cookie jar.
You know?
Yeah. But Bio-Lizard's hand was in the cookie jar when it all happened, so he got caught. But yeah, basically, I just really hate the Bio-Lizard, but he dies anyway, and it's all good. And that led us to the conclusion that, Sonic and Shadow, at least those two should be pardoned as national heroes because they do destroy and therefore neutralize the threat. So, yeah. The law is confusing, and this is a thing that's taking up space in my computer and now in your brains.
This was way more in depth than I expected it to ever be. So
I'm so sorry.
Oh my god, no, absolutely, thank you. That may I have a copy of this just so I can look through this again because I love it so much.
You may absolutely have a copy of this. I don't know, like, where I could put this at some point. But, like, if anyone would like to refer to it, which, like, why would you? This would not hold up in a bibliography, but...
They could be defending Shadow, and they may like, well, look at this. Or I guess in this case, it's more of a prosecution case, so...
I love... Like, I'm really flattered that you think the U.S. government would contact me if this were to actually happen, but that's...
We've got a fucking hedgehog in here. We need your help.
Wait, who's that girl that got into the American legal system and all this before? Get her on the phone. And I'm like, oh, wait, you mean I get to meet Shadow? What? I get to, like, go see him? And then it's all bad.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, that's the thing I did with my time.
I think
I have no idea how to end this or, like, how to make a genuine conclusion.
I mean, well, you gave the genuine conclusion. Like, Sonic and Shadow are war heroes. Mm-hmm. Fucking Biolizard is a war criminal, and it's dead. And Robotnik, there's no saving him whatsoever. So, you know, there you go. You have to pick anyone who's truly guilty that's still alive to throw in jail. Make it Robotnik, everyone.
Yeah.
Not the Paramount one, because that one's too sexy.
Yeah, no, he's way too sexy to go to jail. Yeah, that's what I thought. Exactly. And, like, that was one of the things we had to touch on is, like, her and Sonic's situation is so strange because I had to go off when Sonic was still 16. So everyone else, like, around this, like, collective timeline was still, besides, like, Dr. Robotnik and Shadow technically were minors. So there isn't really, like, a fine or jail time for, like, minor on minor, like, stalking or sexual harassment or, like, solicitation of marriage. So I just put her on there as, like, a dishonorable mention because I'm like, this should be something that we have figured out in our government and we don't. And if Amy Rose is going to have to be the linchpin for that, I think it should be.
I think that's a good start. Mm-hmm. But, like, I'm surprised that she didn't have any crimes to really pin on her. Like,
dude, I tried so hard. There's just so little to pin that wasn't just innately Sonic or honestly Knuckles or Shadow. Because Tails really tried to do very little. It's just the fact that he's operating so much illegal equipment that really put it in deep.
Yeah. Well, I think unless you have another PowerPoint to go over with everyone, I think this is a good time to kind of call it a night.
Lord, yeah, I don't think I do. I say I don't think I do. Really, hopefully.
Well, we gotta have another one. We should probably...
I mean, I have an old PowerPoint from my school days on, Peter Tchaikovsky, if anyone's curious. Or Vladimir Lenin, if you so desire. But other than that, and my college roommates' D&D classes, but you all don't know my college roommates, so it wouldn't really make as much sense. However, that would be fun, considering you guys also don't know my roommates, and you just have to know based on what I tell you. But
we could, that is actually a good idea. We can actually... What if we did something around what D&D classes some of our influencers would be?
See, I was thinking that. I think it would be really fun, because, like... Also, I know that people who play D&D, I think it'd be good for us to at least end this on a D&D flavored note to make it feel more congruous and less cursed. But I think we all have, like, a favorite class. But it's so different when it comes to, like, what class, as they currently live and breathe and operate, would they be in the universe? Like, whether or not you're actively fighting. So, like, you can't, like, I'm not gonna say you can't be a fighter if you're not, like, part of the U.S. Army. But,
right.
Yeah, so it'd be like, well, maybe your favorite is Bard, but you honestly have more, like, cleric vibes, if anything, just more colorful. I think that could be really fun, but it would have to be, like, we would need a decisive party. Like, people who say, this is what you are, and we discuss it, and, like, do research on these people to figure out what they are, and then put it together. So, like, maybe some of them are obvious, maybe they're not, but Lord, that could be funny if only a few people are in charge of doing it.
I think we do have a good group in the influencers that we can actually make that a possibility, but that will definitely have to be saved till next time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Thank you guys for tuning in and being part of this madness.
Yes, oh my god, thank you guys so much. This is wild. And thank you, Banjo, for coming in and being, like, the defense attorney.
You're welcome. I know I failed miserably. You were way more prepared than I ever expected you to be.
No, you're good. That's exactly what I wanted to see.
But yeah, no, that was a delight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Mm-hmm. I think this is the part where we say adios.
I suppose so. I guess catch you guys next time. And what are we doing for the rest of this week? Do we know anything on the current schedule?
I don't know anything about the current schedule. I know I got a show to do next
Probably
week,
Elden Ring or something.
Yeah, probably. Tune
in whenever your push notifications tell you to, and that's the best I can do. Oh yeah, D&D on Monday. I'm in that. Hey guys, God, I'm so good at streaming. We're doing Rhymehold Ritual on Monday, and we actually have a guest appearance from Eric Bra, famous voice actor, coming in and joining our campaign, and that's gonna be freaking awesome, because we left on one of the spookiest and weirdest notes, and I can't wait to pick it back up. It's a disaster, and it's great. So, join back in on Mondays and Wednesdays for D&D campaigns. It should be a good time.
Thank you guys again. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Night, everybody.